A lot of people think that a 5-page document with some bullet points and things is enough to get an accurate reading on a project, which it's just not.
They have to choose a wrong vendor or technical partner. Rather than a problem-solving engine, it became a technical debt for the company.
If you're looking at investing in a longer-term digital transformation initiative, then firstly, we've got to focus on the problem and get clear on actually what we're trying to solve.
If you don't see the long-term vision and then the attitude is not right, then how they are looking at the problem.
They're trying to do it on a shoestring budget, and then they wonder why they end up with something that just looks terrible, doesn't work. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Disruptors. Good to be back and doing it a bit different this week. I'm starting off, so yeah, appreciate you taking the time to join. Ritesh?
Thanks, Julian. Good to be back. I really enjoy this kind of conversation. It's
been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So, no, it's good. Good. Well, today we're just going to discuss just around, I guess, the procurement or partnering, whether it's private or government, kind of internal champions, people that are leading up digital transformation initiatives, or it's website redevelopments, software builds, app builds, whatever you want to call it, essentially digital transformation in general, but kind of the individual internal champions or teams that are leading up those initiatives, and just how imperative and how important it is for those people to make sure that they are clear on what they're trying to achieve, and I guess support them to find the right partner, because as we know time and again working through these processes is that a lot of the time these teams or individuals may not know a lot about kind of not always, but they may not know a lot about kind of digital transformation, or I guess being able to compare apples with apples, if that's the way we want to put it, with these projects. And I guess, what's your experience of some of the stuff that we've had come to us, whether it's kind of RFQs or more just in general kind of high level discovery, where I guess what have you seen from teams about changing direction and not really knowing even, I guess, what the problem is they're trying to solve?
With this almost 15 years of experience, I've seen projects going up and down, and then basically I've seen clients have come up to us with a lot of problem, with a lot of technical depth. Basically, they have choose a wrong vendor or technical partner. They promised a big shiny thing, and then later on it was, rather than a problem-solving engine, it became a technical debt for the company. And I've seen like big companies like that, like investing 5 million, more than that, and then they have, after 2 years' time, they have decided, oh, this is the wrong way. So basically, the way we think, the PSV lens we have, is the first approach I see in any problem-solving skill. Actually, we have to firstly identify the problem, and then see where we can make a better profit, scale, and create some value around it. So basically, I've seen a lot of companies, a lot of tenders as well, and all that kind of thing, where people have a lot of technical depth. And sometimes people go, even I've seen clients select for cheaper vendors. They always want cheaper solution, which has caused them to become more expensive in long term, actually, because maintaining that cheaper solution is biggest hurdle, actually.
Yeah, it's not only maintaining it though. It's not even like, a lot of the time that we're not even achieving what we wanted to, what we set out to achieve and what we were trying to achieve, which means that it's kind of a failed project in general, right? There's so much, I guess, the importance of who you work with, and making sure that they actually understand the organization or the business and the industry, and can actually help you identify the right problem to solve, and then come up with the right solution to solve that. And again, sounds cliche, but it is so important. And as you said, we've seen, I guess, wrong technical implementations, which is, understandable, or to a degree, like as in that there's some technical choices sometimes that don't work out, etc. But that is still something very important. But I guess even further than that, there's further back than that, I guess is the way to put it, is that there's not always I guess, the right solution from the very beginning of even focusing on the right areas, the right problem. And again, as you said, we've seen this through so many, I guess, procurement, or what do you want to call it, sales cycles, working with different companies, private, government, whatever it is. And it's our job as a partner to actually help them identify what the right thing to do is. So much of the traditional approach is, oh yeah, here's what you want to do. Here's a bullet point list. Yeah, here's a quote, or here's whatever. Let's do it. Thanks very much. See you later. And it's just, it's ticking a box, right? It's doing it for the sake of doing it. It's like, oh yeah, we'll tick a box. And I guess it's somewhat viewed as a commodity, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's viewed as oh yeah, we'll use that for a year or 2 years and whatever, we'll scrap it and we'll get rid of it and whatever, we'll do it again. And to me, I don't know, I guess you need to treat it a bit like working with an architect or a construction partner for a large scale building, right? You don't just put out a few dot points and, you know what I mean? Put out a few ideas and say, oh yeah, no worries, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it as cheap as possible, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And yep, we don't need any other help. Thank you very much. And the irony of it is probably that people know, within reason, this might rile some people up, but people probably know more about construction in general because it's physical than they actually do about digital or tech. And yet with tech, they seem to think they can prescribe, this is exactly what we're going to do and this is exactly how we're going to do it, even when they may not have the knowledge to be able to do that.
This is what I've seen actually, is like for small websites, like a company blog website, a company info website kind of thing. WordPress has always been a good solution, easy solution, best solution. So the security vulnerabilities is there, but still, if it is maintained strongly, WordPress always has been a best solution. But these days, all the vendors are always pitching monostack or anything. Monostack is like React and front end, and then everything. Basically, if it's a very small project and it's very small solution, I would always recommend going with WordPress. And if the vision is big, and then if the budget is there to scale and maintain the project, then the modern stack would be give a more flexibility around the scalability. I get that, but every of the solution these days, the newbies, because with the AI generation, everyone is from the day one a developer. So, oh, this is the popular thing. Let's implement this. The experiment is going on the client project. Actually, they're learning on the go on the project, and that's what is happening all the time. Actually, that's what experiment. I love doing experiment, but to what level, to what extent we are? It is like, yes, the idea is great. Experiment should be done. I also agree with that, because until and unless we don't experiment, we don't know new things. But risking the client's money and the client's vision, the big vision, could be a big deal. Actually, that's what I have seen on a couple of projects where they have choose a the vision was big, and but it's done half-heartedly. One of the projects that I was reviewing a couple of weeks ago, I felt that actually, okay, the plan was big, but the idea was big, vision was big, but the implementation was so crap that it has to be redone again and again. So this kind of projects come to us quite often.
Yeah. And I guess it's the importance, as you said, it's the importance of finding that right partner. And to be honest, it comes down to trust. And like a lot of, I guess, unfortunately, sometimes, or a lot of the time probably is the way to put it, the procurement decisions are made based on looking at the numbers and thinking people are comparing apples with apples, rather than going on, okay, who seems to be the most trustworthy, who's put in the most effort of demonstrating to us that this is how we will get the results, this is how we will get our solution. And again, it's the same thing, is that there's no such thing as, I guess, necessarily, what's the word? There's no one way to do something, right, in these particular scenarios. And there's not there could be even just the problem in itself. What we're trying to solve can be solved multiple ways. The tech stack, the variables that are everything that's there. There's millions of different ways, essentially, eventually to get to the end outcome. And I guess my focus with this episode more, what I wanted to discuss and just trying to give advice to anyone out there is just getting the confidence and clarity around the partner that they work with to implement this. Is that there's certain projects, if it's quick and it's nasty, let's call it that way, you might go for the cheapest solution. You might know that is whatever. We don't care. It's a 6-month thing. We don't care how it's built. It's going to be destroyed after 6 months. Yes. Okay. We're not talking about that scenario. But if you're looking at investing in a longer term digital transformation initiative, anything like that, then you really, really have to, I guess, build that relationship with that vendor, get the trust there, and understand that. I guess the biggest thing for me is like, okay, forget the actual tech stack necessarily, don't get me wrong, that's important, as you've discussed as well, and it's important that we get to those things. But firstly, we've got to focus on the problem and get clear on actually what we're trying to solve. And I guess to explain a little bit what that means and to dive into that, because you said that a few times, is like, how many people come to us with an idea or a vision and maybe even a wish list of this is what we want to do, etc. That when we actually analyze it, honestly, more than half doesn't need to be done in one instance. So they've come up and they've said, we're going to do all of this stuff. And when we analyze it, it's like, well, it's actually not going to bring any return. So as we said, PSV thinking, profit, scale, and value, or vice versa. They come to us thinking that they're building the most advanced, amazing system, and it's just the bare basics, right? It's like, they're building a customer portal, or they're building an application that does this and this, and it's like they think it's this amazing system. And it's like, well, have you spoken to customers? Have you spoken to users? Have you done this? And they're like, no, we just put this out and we've already got 10 quotes, or we've already got 5 quotes. It's like, it's pretty hard to fix the problem when you're solving the wrong problem.
Exactly. Yep. Basically, right, while we were discussing, I was thinking in my head that, okay, selecting as a vendor is also similar to getting married, selecting your life partner. Actually, you have to be, if someone is not passionate, right? Like, how do you select? You look for the attitude, you look for the character. If you don't look, you see the long-term vision in a life partner. If you don't see the long-term vision, and then the attitude is not right, the passion is not right, then like how they are solving, how they are looking at the problem is also very, very important for selecting a vendor. Not only on the Excel sheet. If Excel sheet makes this kind of decisions, then it's the wrong decision, wrong way to make it. Yes, there is details that prove, but Excel sheet here I mean is the cost only perspective. I don't, the cost is second or last thing, but it's the attitude, it's the perspective, how we take the problem, take the challenge as our own. It's not like it's a client job. It's not that. If we take it as our job, then yeah, it's the second thing. That the last thing would be money, I guess.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think one of the biggest things people are buying, reserving, whatever you want to call it, when they work with someone like ourselves, is, how do you put it? The brains, the intellect, the innovation, the thought process, the mindset, right? Because to a degree, writing a function is a commodity, if that makes any sense. To a degree, if there's enough of a requirement put down, then yes, anyone can write that function within reason. Yes, there's different levels. Yes, there's absolutely, but within reason, that's the commodity. For example, if we know exactly what we need to do, the easy bit is building it, right? The problem is figuring out what do we exactly do. And that isn't just like, yes, there's technical decisions that need to be made. What tech stack do we use? What are the technologies that we use? Do we integrate? Are there existing infrastructure that we need to work with? Whatever that is, that's all important. But on top of that, it's like, where do we actually even focus? Coming back to that PSV thinking to get the most increased profitability, e.g., increasing our opportunities, decreasing costs, increasing our scale. So how do we scale further to the customers? And then how do we build enterprise value? And again, that is the hardest bit in any organization, whether it's private, government, whatever it is. Now, obviously the PSV thinking applies a little bit differently to government, but it's the same principles, right? How you're building citizen value, right? Rather than enterprise value. So you're building value there, and we're increasing the scale to, so we can deliver far more services with the, same headcount, for example. Then how do we reduce our costs, right? Make sure our total ownership over time. That doesn't mean investment is low. It doesn't mean we cut budgets in half and things like that there. But we invest, for example, it's better that we invest 2 million now, and over 5 years we invest 3 million, and we get 15 million or 20 million in return from what we've done, then investing 500,000 now and writing that off in 2 years' time as a failed project, right? But again, the hard bit is, and I'll just say this for ourselves, in knowing our industry, is that how we show that to people and building that trust is just incredibly important.
Exactly. And basically the other thing also is experience also. Like if you are selecting a vendor, then it's they or he or she, whatever the company is, has to be a very experienced one as well. I've seen like people not understanding the vision, not seeing the vision, just whatever is like assigned to is they are just do that only. Basically, that's what I want to say. Actually, reading between the lines and understanding the vision is very, very important. Basically, what happens is that with clients, they see the problem. Oh, this is the problem. I want this data to from here. But a really experienced vendor would what they would look into is why they want that this data to be moved from here. The thought process will be different, and then they will approach is the problem in a different way. Like basically, I've seen in 5 years' time, people are building small applications here and there, and in 5 years' time, the data is scattered so bad that none of this is useless in today's AI world. Like they have all the data, but it's scattered everywhere.
Yeah, there's no single management. And again, I guess it comes back to the planning, the discovery of, and you're never going to have everything perfect. That's not really the point. There's no single silver bullet. There's no perfect way. But I guess it comes back to the management and making sure you've got the right competent people working on the project that can actually do what you need to do. And to me, I honestly feel a lot of people underestimate the difficultness of these kind of projects. Like they think, I've often said this, but like they underestimate how much something's going to cost, as in they think it's typically, not always, but they typically underestimate, the level of investment required, but they also, at the same time, they underestimate the power if it's done properly. They underestimate the returns if it's done properly. It's both. So they underestimate what it's going to take to actually invest to do it properly, and vice versa. They underestimate, what the returns are. And typically the one of it is they underestimate how much it's going to cost to do it properly. That's the main one. A lot of people say, yeah, we know what tech can do. We know what this can do. And, we've got all these great ideas. And that they're trying to do it on a shoestring budget. And then they wonder why that they end up with something that just looks terrible, doesn't work, doesn't function, etc. And doesn't, I guess, get the results that they want. And to me, a lot of it comes back to, again, I've harped on about it a bit, but is the discovery, right? Is like, if we're not doing thorough discovery, if we're not getting aligned on what the roadmap is, what the plan is, what the strategic plan is, what the strategy is, and how do we know where we're going, right? If that makes any sense. And just on that and zeroing in on this point, I'd like your comments on this, is that I think for me, this is both a vendor thing and, when we're working with organizations, but there's often a lot of assumptions, right? For example, an organization will assume that a vendor that they're working with or a partner they're working with will be like, oh, they get what we're saying. Yeah, we've already done our flow chart. They totally understand what we're trying to say. It's like, well, not really. Like, as in, we need to know a lot more than that. We need to understand a lot more than that. And vice versa. Vendors will think, oh, yeah, I've said this 2-sentence thing, so they know that I mean this other 6 other things, if that makes any sense. a lot of it comes down to misalignment and misunderstandings, right?
Yeah, exactly. Recently, I've seen one of the clients coming to us with, I want this website to be redesigned and this. But when we go way through the analyze the vision, going through the lines of the requirements, what we saw is the vision was much more bigger than a redesigning kind of thing. His vision was, his words were just to redesign, but the vision was to very big. If someone says just redesign, what would I say? Oh, this, it isn't like the color, or it isn't like the alignment, or whatever that is. What do I understand? That is what I understand, right? So it isn't like, but he's with, and before, after looking at the requirements for an hours, we decided that okay, this project needs a proper discovery. We need to understand the proper vision. This two line won't give us a proper context on what we want to, where we want to, and basically we got to that point because like if we don't do a proper discovery, we want architect it properly. We are seeing a very smaller picture, and then we are architecting the application in that according to that smaller picture.
Well, thanks everyone. We've run into some technical difficulties, but just to wrap it up, it's so important that whoever you're working with, the partner, vendor, whatever you want to call them, that you're aligned. There's that trust there. As we said, touched off on discovery, so important. The previous episode as well, where I had a chat with Ashish about that as well, as to how important, alignment is, and in discovery, and making sure that we're all crystal clear and on the same page. It kind of all flows into the same thing, is that a lot of the time people can write off discovery. They don't want to necessarily put in the extra investment. They don't see it as being necessary. A lot of people think that, a 5-page document with some bullet points and things is enough to get an accurate reading on a project, which it's just not. And again, it's not necessarily anything to do with their fault. It's just, how do we get clear? How do we get aligned and get on the same page? And I feel there is a misunderstanding, or probably just a lack of education around the fact of how much work goes into these projects and how much work is needed to make sure that we get a successful outcome. And it's not guaranteed. It's something that has to be worked on. And so it would strongly advise, as we discussed in this episode, build that trust, get clear, and don't just look at the budget. Don't just look at the numbers. You need to look at what are we doing, what are we solving, and what's the potential return, and make sure that we're aligned on that. And then again, we can work towards a successful outcome. Appreciate you tuning in once again, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Disruptors. If you are serious about unlocking your ace factor, the thing that sets your business apart and helps it grow sustainably, don't forget to follow, share, and leave a quick review. We will be back next week with more real-world insights and no-flop conversations on how to rethink your systems, modernize operations, and build value that lasts. Until then, stay sharp, stay focused, and keep disrupting.